Hello everyone, welcome to a new video for Bitcoin price prediction based on Elliott wave analysis. This is indicator analysis. We're gonna dive deeper in every indicator to see also how it works in, of course, comparison with our Elliott wave analysis, and we're gonna see what is the highest possibility. So basically we are still inside this A, B, and a C unfinished yet. You have your wave C here as a 1, 2, 3. You're looking at a potential wave 4 finished here, and your wave 5 is not yet finished. We see three waves toward the upside, meaning corrective, and opening, of course, three scenarios here that it might unfold in this area. The first scenario is we're still looking, of course, at a ending diagonal 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5 to hit perfectly in the blue zone, of course, of the wave 5 taken from the wave 1 to the wave 3 and giving, of course, us these fib levels. And basically, when you reach the 1-to-1 fib level, it would be, of course, a much more confirmation here that you have finished, of course, a zigzag, even if we overshoot a little bit at the 1-to-1 fib level. Now, what you would like to see, of course, in this case scenario, hitting the 1.618 or the 1.27 for a wave 3. If the price action reach the 1.27, meaning overshooting those fib levels, it can be, of course, the possibility to start to get higher for a wave 3 here as a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5, knowing that as per Elliott wave, it is very impossible to have a wave 2 here, regarding, of course, this sideways correction in triangle and even not reaching the 0.38 fib level. Now, currently, this is the highest potential scenario is an ending diagonal finishing inside this blue box and then start to move toward the downside. We have to be careful in case this ending diagonal, this has passed or had happened in the history, of course, where you see an ending diagonal transforming to a leading diagonal, meaning a wave 1 for a wave 2 and then 3, 4, and a 5 continuation toward the upside. This is your bullish scenario, of course, in case this ending diagonal transformed to a wave 1, 2, and then 3, 4, 5 for a wave 5. This, of course, happened in history, and it can repeat as well at any time. Now, the bearish scenario or corrective scenario is, of course, a 3 waves down, 3 waves up. You're looking for 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5. Hitting those fib level between the 1.38, 1.618, the blue box, of course, where you might hit as an impulse toward the downside for a wave C. Those are the main scenarios right now. In case, of course, something else is unfolding, can be as well a sideways triangle here. And then, of course, still looking for one more high in between this blue box again. So basically, in highest possibility is we still looking for higher to take the high, this blue box, and finishing a zigzag here with a little bit extended wave C, and then moving toward the downside, whether, of course, in ABC or impulsively 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for a major wave C in a wave A. Now let's start, of course, with the indicator and starting with the RSI. So on the RSI, we can see, of course, on the 1-hour chart, we see that the overbought area has been touched twice. It has been given first from the wave 1 and second on the wave 3. And potentially that your wave 5 can reach a little bit higher, of course, but I doubt that we're gonna get, of course, higher than this. And that means, of course, if we move higher for this wave 5 as diagonal, we might see the RSI moving, touching the overbought area, and then start to move toward the downside, of course, after creating here a very clear divergence, of course, because we're gonna see the diagonal. So you're gonna have a divergence with the RSI here, putting a pressure on the selling and then moving toward the downside as an exhaustion, of course, for the buyers. And basically, we don't see any divergence here on the RSI as well between this price action and this one. It is very, very like with the same direction, meaning, of course, we are in the good direction towards the upside, still looking for higher a little bit. But when we achieve this high, we might get, of course, the exhaustion of buyers and start to move towards the downside potentially, where we already got actually a signal here. If you can check this one here, we have also a very clear divergence, and you start to see, of course, exhaustion and moving towards the downside. However, of course, it still can gain some strength and move towards the upside to create another divergence here, and then moving toward the downside one more time again. So basically, this is what I'm seeing on the 1 hour chart for the RSI. On the 4 hour chart for the RSI, we see also an overbought area, which is highlighting here for the wave 3 already. And of course, there is a potential to enter a little bit this area. And then, of course, during the ending diagonal, potentially. We see, of course, a little bit of drop downs. We see also a divergence here, creation between, of course, the price action and the RSI. This is a bullish divergence actually on the 4 hour chart. It can bring a little bit the price toward the upside for your wave 3, 4, and a 5. So potentially, yeah, this is exactly what I would like to see. A little bit higher prices and then finishing this ending diagonal and then moving toward the downside. And basically, a bullish divergence can bring this ending diagonal, of course, to our to the chart, and of course finishing the zigzag toward the upside. On the daily, we can see that the daily is also very close to the overbought area. I believe that once, it has been touched once, and here we go, we see the reaction, but still, of course, looking a little bit to touch it and to confirm much more higher prices. We already touch, of course, or enter the overbought area in our bull run here, and we start to move toward the downside. We went to the oversold area, and currently we are just, of course, at the overbought area, meaning a little bit higher with the ending diagonal might bring it, of course, toward the downside very easily. On the weekly chart, we can see as well that we already got on our cycle, right? We got our wave 3 and our wave 5. This is exactly what you would like to see in every impulse. The wave 3 entering the overbought area very decisively and very high, while the wave 5 enters again, of course, the overbought area, but in a lower volume, of course, creating a divergence and exhaustion, moving toward the downside. And this is exactly what we saw, of course, on the 1 hour chart and the 4 hour chart for this trend toward the upside, right? So we see now exactly the same thing. We saw the wave 3 entering the overbought area decisively, and you would like to see now the wave 5 entering again with a lower amount, of course, and this can be, of course, through the diagonal. And yep, so these basically are the insights for the RSI. Let's move to the MACD. So on the MACD, looking here at the 4 hour chart, very interesting price action. You can see the volume of the sellers moving down while the price is moving up. So it is a signal of strength, definitely, knowing that there is a bearish cross even at this area. Bearish cross meaning, of course, that you would like to see the price moving down while the price is still moving toward the upside slowly. But that means, of course, that the sellers are accumulating at this area starting from that point. You are looking at, of course, slow motion here, price action, which it might finish, of course, as an ending diagonal. And then, of course, continuation towards the downside, of course, for a new cycle here for the 4 hour chart as a potential moving up later on, of course. We're gonna see this, of course, when we see a ABC potentially, you might have a volume toward the upside again. So for the wave B potentially, or even for a bigger wave B, we're gonna see. But basically, in this area, we are looking, of course, to this trend moving toward the downside, open still, very open, clearly and decisively open. So basically, we still even in a very red, but the price action is still not showing a weakness so much. We're still looking for potential higher prices and ending diagonal again. This is kind of a confirmation that, of course, the seller's volume is increasing, as you can see from the beginning, knowing that also the volume of the buyer is very interesting as well. So yeah, we see a lot of equality here between bullish and bearish for the sellers and the buyers actually for MACD. On the 1 hour chart, we are also exactly at the zero level for the MACD, and of course we see less selling. Of course, it is a weekend right now, also less buying. It's normal for the weekend, but we are, of course, at the edge, of course, to move toward the downside potentially after having a huge cycle for the 1 hour chart here in the upper side of the MACD. So potentially it might visit the lower part soon. We're gonna see as well. Yep, so 15-minute chart as well. I believe that it is, yeah, it is trying okay. This will define exactly if we're moving for higher potentially for the wave 3. It is open. That is a bullish cross, and we might, of course, see this move toward the upside. On the daily for the MACD is very interesting. We see, of course, an increase in volume as well for the buyers on the daily here in this area. It is very, very interesting. So we have to consider, of course, a bullish scenario here that it might unfold, because of course the buyers are increasing since, of course, like our bull run here, you can see almost the same level almost. But yeah, we have to watch it. It might be finished. It might start to move towards a bearish cross again. So we have to be careful with it. It might start to create some volume toward the downside as well. Yeah, so might be a trap. Be careful. Based on Elliott wave, we have a possibility, of course, to move toward the upside as a wave 4 here, and you have 1 2 again. My problem is a 1 2 here. I don't see any impulsive wave. Of course, those are really beautiful long candles, but I don't see a 1 2. This is a problem based on Elliott wave. And of course, Elliott wave is the first tools that I use here and that I trust in the market always. Let's move as well to the KGT. So on the KGT, interesting bearish signal in convergence with the price action, putting a pressure toward the downside. It might be, of course, the potential of a 1 2 here, and then we move toward the upside 3 4 5, potentially for ABC corrective. And we see, of course, a bullish signal as well, but it is not in full divergence. Of course, it's not in divergence, so it might of course unfold a wave 3 at the same time. But this signal is showing, of course, that the bears are there, and of course they are accumulating and showing some power here with some convergence, while the divergence of the bullish is very weak. If we take a bigger look on the 15-minute chart, of course, we saw all the bearish signal invalidated here, which is very nice with this move, with this pump toward the upside. However, if you would like to move really to the actual price action here that we can see clear signal, it is a 1 hour. Showing, of course, is this a bearish cycle that it might, of course, have started here with a sell in the top of after we got our bull run. And then you see, of course, a bullish signal and another one, of course, which is not in divergence again. Showing a weakness, it means, of course, we might move towards the upside, but correctively and not impulsively, because you don't have a divergence. You would like to see a clear divergence for a 1 2 here, 3 4 and a 5 to show power, of course, for the bullish, and then we can call a potential bull run. If we had this, by the way, on the KGT, I would be much more convinced even that we have a 1 2 3 4 and a 5. But here you don't have any 1 2. You took the low, meaning it's not divergence, and you're looking for a corrective wave. In this bearish signal, it is very in convergence, of course, putting a lot of pressure coming from the top here, potentially after 3 waves, once it is finished with this ending diagonal. Therefore, this will become stronger and stronger, and then putting pressure towards the downside. So basically, this is what KGT shows, and also one of the most indicators that I trust. At the end, I build it by myself, and exactly to see what I want to see. Yeah, so basically this is what we are looking at right now. So the last indicator is the volume. Now on the volume for the daily, we can see, by the way, very interesting for the volume in the daily, showing more confirmation that we are corrective more than impulsive. Starting with a very high amount of volume for your wave 1, considering that this is an impulse. If you have a wave 1 here as a 1, 2, and you're looking for a wave 3, normally your wave 3 should have the highest amount of volume. It should be very, very higher than your wave 1 and not lower than your wave 1. And very simple, when you start with a very high amount of volume with a wave 1 means this is an indication of buyers entering the market. Your wave 3 would be, of course, very extended with higher amount of volume, meaning that there is still more buyers entering the market. While now we see, of course, a wave 3 almost done with 5 waves, and we see, of course, lower amount of volume, meaning buyers are retreating back, right? So we don't see a higher amount of volume more than what we saw in the beginning. You would like to see more and not less. So that means, of course, the buyers are retreating, and potentially that the bears might take the lead soon or later, right? So this is what the volume shows on the daily here. On the 1 hour chart, we see, of course, a very high amount of volume at this high here, which is corrective, by the way. But basically, because, of course, this might means that this is the end of the structure. Remember also, you might see a very high amount of volume when you finish a wave C. And that means A, B, and a C. And this might be the indication, of course, that you have finished a wave C, because you might see higher amount of volume, higher than the wave 3, by the way, because this is your wave 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5, you got your wave 3, which is lower than the up trend here. And that means, of course, a potential of finished structure, opening the scenarios, of course, of a bear market, or potentially, the end of this diagonal and then moving towards the downside. So basically, these are the scenarios we're gonna see, of course, what's gonna happen. The possibilities are very, very, very clear right now. We have a potential. We're looking for a little bit higher for this zone, or potentially for this zone. Now, basically, if this is gonna be done and finished as per the volume here indicator, meaning you might have finished as well in WXY. Don't forget this scenario where you have a W potentially, and you have a formation of an X here, and you have a Y as a zigzag. Yeah, so double zigzag and an X in between as a bridge. And this, of course, can be finished in, of course, at any time, even without reaching the 1-to-1 fib level, if it wants to play it not nicely, yeah? So it can happen. Don't forget that you are in a bear market. In a bigger view, we have topped for Bitcoin. We're looking for a big ABC as a wave 2. And of course, you can watch the deep analysis from yesterday for a very detailed explanation for this bear market. That was it for the indicators. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your likes and comments. See you in the next one. Bye bye.